Today we are learning how to do invisible increasing in garter stitch. Now garter stitch is a stitch that's the same on the front and back, as you can see. And when you're working garter stitch flat, as I am, you're just knitting all the stitches on every row. So you're knitting across on the right side, you're knitting across on the wrong side. Now when you have to increase in garter stitch, a lot of times it's very visible, it stands out. You have a little blip in the fabric where you did the increase, particularly if you're doing several increases in one row. Say you're doing that at the increase of a sleeve cuff or on the yoke of a sweater where you have a round of a ton of increases all at once. That can get a little visually jarring to do. So today I'm going to show you how to do an increase in garter stitch that's more invisible than your standard increases you might normally do. And the key here is that we are working on the wrong side of the fabric. The increase that we work is going to be visible from the side that we work it on. So that's why we want to work the increase on a wrong side row so that when we flip it over and the public side of the knitting is facing out, that increase is hidden. So I'm working across a wrong side row now. Okay, and let's say that I hit the stitch and this is where I'm going to increase. So normally I would do, backward loop increase or a knit into the front and back of this stitch, but this special increase will hide itself when we flip over to the right side. And here's how you work it. So here's our next stitch on the needle. And just below that stitch is the head of the stitch from the row below, which appears as a purl bump. You can see all the little bumps riding right up against these live stitches on the needle. And that little head is what we want to work into. So I'm going to take my right needle tip, go as if I'm going into the stitch from the row below, but I'm just picking that head up, that little purl bump, pulling it apart. You get a kind of X. That's the live stitch and the head from the stitch below. And we're going to knit the new stitch, the increased stitch, into this head that we've just pulled up. And you can either do that just like this, or you can pick that head up, put it on the right needle just to help yourself work it, knit it, and then we're going to knit the stitch above it, like that. So we just basically created two stitches from one. Let's do that one more time. I'm going to grab that head from the stitch below, pull it up, knit a stitch into it, that's my increased stitch, and then knit the live stitch and complete my row. You can already see a little blip in the fabric on the side that I'm looking at, but on the other side it's camouflaged with purl bumps or garter ridges. So I will work across this row one more time, make that a little bit easier to see. So now I'm working across on the right side. I would not do any increases in this row because I'm not working from the wrong side. And the nice thing is I'm working across these stitches that have been increased, and they don't even feel like increased stitches. They sit on the needle just like regular live stitches. Makes it really nice and easy to work across the row following the increases. I'm going to do one more down and back and then we'll take a look. So here's the wrong side of the work. You can see that there's a little bit of a blip in the fabric here where I did that increase. If we're following this line of purl bumps across, there's a little bit of an interruption. And if you had a bunch of those in a prominent place on your sweater, it might not look super polished, but on the right side, that same place where the increase is, you see it's nice and clean. If we work across those garter ridges, you can kind of see there's no interruption in those. And that's how you do invisible increases in garter stitch from the wrong side of the fabric.